WWE have announced that their next Hall of Famer to be inducted is none other than Queen Sharmell. But does she deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? We're going to talk about it and so much more in just a second, so stay tuned. This is WrstlXra.
Yo, 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 or should I say, hey, yo.
Yo, for real.
Sad news, man. Sad news of Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, as Mex holds up the NWO t-shirt. Sadly passing away yesterday. I believe it was he had a fall, needed hip surgery, and then during the surgery things went wrong, blood clots and stuff, and I think he ended up having like 3 heart attacks. Unfortunately, he was on life support for about 2 days, and then the family decided to stop the life support. And unfortunately, the man, a man who definitely changed the game in many ways, and or was definitely a part of a group of people who changed the game of wrestling. I'm not just talking NWO specifically. I mean, like him and Scott Hall, the way they went to WCW when they did, what that meant for wrestlers, contracts, you know, all that kind of stuff. It was just absolute game-changing stuff, man. And I know there are a lot of people who are hurt, not necessarily by the Scott Hall of the NWO, but more so Razor Ramon. I think it's more so Razor Ramon that everyone loved. You know, everyone remembers and fell in love with wrestling because of that or during that era. So yeah, man, hard one to take for a lot of people. I've got the red and yellow Razor Ramon colors in the background as well. But yeah, man, R.I.P. Scott Hall, and you know, a man, 2-time Hall of Famer as well, as himself and with the NWO as well. So let's just make sure we you know, pay our respects to the man that was Scott Hall, man. Razor Ramon, for sure. Moving on to the big topic of the day. We found out the last few days that Queen Sharmell is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, I've not seen a lot of the reactions and stuff like that, but I've kind of had a bit of a, you know, an inkling as to a bit of a indifferent of opinion across the wrestling world. Why Queen Sharmell? Does she deserve it? Why does she not deserve it? It's about time. What has she done? Mex, you're the Twitter man. Tell me what the reaction has been on wrestling Twitter with the news of Queen Sharmell being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
It is very mixed. Like you're saying, obviously she had her famous run as queen alongside her husband Booker T.
Of course,
what, 2005, 6 or so, I want to say.
Something like that.
Yeah, following his King of the Ring win. Now, it feels, I will say this, like it feels almost as if the criteria to get Hall of Famer for WWE these days is just becoming less and less. You just should have worked for the company. So yeah, it's in terms of what did she do and all that stuff. She was valet to a king, to King of the Ring. She was valet to a world champion, and they had an extended period. And that, to be honest, that's probably one of Booker T's best runs ever as king. So we can't disregard the role she played in there. Booker T's been very vocal as well with, you know, the role she played as well, and that she deserves this. Booker T is set to be the one to induct her, which makes perfect sense. However, I guess when we're looking at, you know, those that have been, let's say, Hall of Famers inducted in, and those that have been just, you know, thrown in on the legacy wing, that's where the argument comes. But I do understand it, but I just feel at the same time, as wrestling fans, we're kind of, it's just typical. We don't know what we want. We saw Vader. Vader was announced a couple of weeks back, and people are saying finally, and this, that, and the other. Like,
yeah.
Cool. But then now they've taken the Sharmell. Queen Sharmell has never got to the point of people, demanding her to go in. One could say they've taken initiative and put her in earlier than the demand has come.
Very true.
And there's still, an outpour of people saying all sorts and stuff like that. I'm just picking up NK's remarks here. Big up NK in the chat, nice and early. He says, "This is how my timeline is different. I didn't even know she was inducted. Congrats to her. I don't see the issue. There has been questionable names in the Hall of Fame prior to her, so the president has been set." I mean, there's that as well. Like, I just feel like this is, just let it be. You see what I mean? She's not the headliner. She's not the headline. Right. This isn't like we're announcing the class of Hall of Famers for this year, and she's gonna headline, or she is the main name. You get what I mean? Like, she's gonna be one of 7 or 8. Like, relax, just let it happen, and we'll crack on with other stuff.
I'm feeling a little indifferent in the sense of, you question why, or try to list why she should be, and others may list why she shouldn't be. But at the same time, I can't see why she wouldn't be in time, if that makes sense. It's almost like, it almost feels like it's happening too early, but not in the sense of it shouldn't happen at all.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, I don't know. It's almost like the time will be the thing that will make you feel okay, a little more nostalgic about it, or whatever else. It's kind of like almost like a fine wine situation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Over time, then you'll be like, okay, yeah. But I think, to be fair, we're talking, what, 15 years ago was her best run. That's long enough. I can't see why. It's just nice to see, and some initiative being taken by the WWE towards a black female. To be fair, if nothing else, it's that I'm holding on to. We can look back at her career, what she did during her time as an active member of any roster, whether it be WCW or when she was with Booker T, and there's nothing stands out apart from the time she was actually Queen Sharmell.
Yeah,
unfortunate. But at the same time, there have been many people who have been inducted into the Hall of Fame, and not even questionably, but inducted into the Hall of Fame, and their best run was like for 5 years, if that. So then why does her, year or two as Queen Sharmell not qualify? Yeah. Why should it not qualify? I personally don't see a problem. Yes, she's not the first name I would have thought of. If someone asked me to write a list of like 20 people, she probably wouldn't even be in there. I probably wouldn't even have considered her. But at the same time, when you stop and think, you're like, actually, there's no reason why she shouldn't. Just because she's not on the top of your mind. But again, does that mean there are many people that could fit into this Hall of Fame in the future?
On the face of it, if we just remove her name and all of this kind of stuff and just say her accolades, she is the manager of a world champion.
Right.
And so, yeah, a world champion is always going to go in. A manager that, created some notoriety around the champion is going to go in. So on the face of it, that's enough to kind of put her in. The argument and the discourse always comes from, oh, how can Sharmell go in before A, insert name? How can she go in before B, insert name? And this is what it then creates, that tribalism amongst fans of who should go in first, who should go in last, and all of this kind of stuff. And the likes of Batista, that was supposed to be inducted in the pandemic. I ain't heard no one shout his name that they haven't yet, done that. You see what I mean? Like, there's names all up down the card, retired 15, 10, 20 years ago, of people that haven't been put in. Like, this isn't really, like NK said in the chat, there's precedents for putting in some people that haven't got such high accolades. There's precedents for putting in people that, you know, could have waited a couple years, but you know, here they are already, sort of thing. See Gerard in the chat, big up Gerard. He said, but still there is Jazz. So Jazz is another name that is still to enter. But you know, again, she's kind of been left behind. So I think this is part of the conversation that a lot of people are kind of saying, why her out of everyone else? More than anything, I think at least she's billed, or you know, right now she lives in Texas. WrestleMania is in Texas. This might just be a quick, easy win. Let's get her done this year and crack on, you know. So the stars have somewhat aligned. Booker T's from Texas. She's from Texas. Booker T's going to induct her. Like I said, she's a champion. She's a manager to a champion, so a world champion. Let's just do this, guys, and you know, crack on and move on with something else.
Exactly. And I think even just that alone, just where they're going to be, is enough. I believe that's happened with others in the past as well, where they were from the state or the city that WrestleMania was taking part in.
Undertaker.
That's just how it works. Undertaker. There you go. That's just how it works. There's no issue with that. That makes a lot of sense. That's how you get people to come to the ceremony to buy into WrestleMania. All the rest of it. It's all part of the game at the end of the day. And I see no issue with it. Put Booker T on there, as you said, from Texas. They've got Reality of Wrestling. She's the cornerstone of that company as well. And if you wanted to go there, actually, you know, we've even seen stars come from there, or from Booker T's wrestling school, and Sharmell's had her hand in that as well. So if we wanted to kind of scrape at other things, that would definitely be one of them. That's more than enough of a reason why she's in there, or could be, you know, or qualifies to be in there. So, you know, big up to the Queen every time. And, you know, I'm here for it, man. I was surprised by it, ain't gonna lie. First name I would have picked out my head, no, but I'm here for it. I'm definitely not complaining. Put it that way. I'm not complaining at all.
The only thing left now is that Booker T must induct her in his English accent.
Oh yeah.
He has to be King Booker if he inducts her as Queen Sharmell.
Yeah. Definitely has to do that. That would be amazing. And that's crazy, you know, to see Booker T now at what third time at a Hall of Fame ceremony, because obviously he's been inducted twice himself, and now he's inducting his wife. That's massive. That's a big win for us, if anything else, bro. You know, I mean, if nothing else, that's a massive win for us. I'm not even sure anyone else has been directly involved in Hall of Fame 3 times. Booker T was the first to be inducted twice, although Bret Hart and Ric Flair were both inducted for a second time on that same night. But Booker T was the first one.
The only other person that might have been been involved in, you know, like you're saying, is Vince McMahon, in terms of inducting people and stuff like that. Even I don't think it reaches 3 times. If I'm thinking about it, maybe 3 times this year when he inducts Taker.
Possibly.
Yeah,
that's about it. But obviously, he's not in it himself. With Booker T, he's been into the Hall of Fame twice, and then his wife. So that's a massive win for us, and for the state of Texas. Hey. Speaking of WrestleMania, I'm gonna throw this one in there real quick. Actually, we're seeing obviously everything happening. We're seeing the build up to WrestleMania. Interesting things are going on now with this whole Becky and Bianca situation. This ponytail, no ponytail. What's the latest on this whole madness of Bianca's ponytail?
They're telling us that Bianca's injured currently. She has throat trauma, and they don't know whether or when she's going to be back. I guess that's from the chair being wrapped around her neck and thrown into the ring post. Becky has been doing a great job. I think I said this some weeks ago. Becky has done so much in building Bianca's star even further. It's really sold the whips of hair to her chest some weeks back. And it almost looks for me that they're heading in the direction of like maybe a hair versus hair match or something like that, which I think could be fun. Especially because they're putting 2 women's championship matches on the same night. I don't know why they're even doing that, but like maybe giving us even the other one, the Charlotte match. I thought maybe by now they would have announced that was going to be a submission match with everything they're talking about in terms of making each other tap out.
Right.
But yeah, maybe making this some type of hair versus hair match or something like that. Maybe Bianca goes on to win the title at WrestleMania, but after the match, Becky still keeps some heat by like chopping off Bianca's ponytail or something like that. Obviously, you know, for us, so for those of us that are educated, we know that she can just go and buy some bundles and put in another extension. But you know, maybe the wider world that aren't privy to that information. But yeah, maybe something like that. Or I think Becky mentioned on Raw she's got to do something about her hair next week on Raw, next Monday, 21st. So we'll see. But some type of hair stipulation or something seems to be surrounding this story.
Yeah, for sure. As you said, it makes it fun, to be honest. It gives it a different dynamic. It doesn't actually feel like a cheesy type of dynamic, though. We've seen hair versus hair before, and you know the most recent one we saw on NXT 2.0 with with those two
Cameron
guys.
Grimes and what's his face,
the Aussie Casino guy.
Yeah, him.
That was just weird. And we've seen, you know, obviously the biggest, I guess, the biggest one we've seen before is Vince McMahon and Donald Trump as well. That involved Lashley and Umaga, which was crazy, and Stone Cold. But I think for me, this one, it actually feels like it's something to look forward to. Whether that be to see, well, I guess the biggest thing to look forward to is to see Bianca with no ponytail.
Yeah,
how that's gonna work, and as you said, I think a few weeks ago, how it may help to now, you know, give us a new side to Bianca as well.
Evolve her.
The new hair will give us a new Bianca. I think that's what's on the cards. So I'm excited for it. We'll see what happens. Moving our attentions actually over to AEW. A crazy, strange thing happened. A crazy, strange thing happened last week on Dynamite. I saw a graphic, I think it was like a couple hours before. Scorpio Sky versus Sammy Guevara for the TNT Championship. I'm like, oh, okay. Scorpio's been bragging about this unbeaten thing for almost a year now. Yeah, he's getting his chance. Whereas every other time, the 2 other times I've seen Scorpio Sky face the TNT champion, I'm like, Scorpio Sky's gonna win. He has to win. This time I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, we got a match. Great. Brilliant stuff. Lo and behold, and new TNT champion Scorpio Sky. What?
Yeah.
I'm confused. I was so confused. I saw the news like the following morning, and I was just confused. And still now, I'm a little bit confused, a little bit more encouraged, but still just very confused as to why, how, and when I'm thinking why, I know exactly why, and I'm scared because of why, and I'm just like, what was this? What are your thoughts when you saw it or when you find out what happened?
So yeah, when I watched it, because I literally, when I'm watching it, I tune out of social media. I literally turn it on and I'm just like, okay, let me just see this for what it is. So genuinely shocked by the end of AEW Dynamite last week. Very good match between the two, but never expected that to be the outcome. I put out a video shortly afterwards and I was doing some research before I put my video together. And they've played off this unbeaten streak very intelligently. Because he hasn't actually had a singles match in the last year. I don't know if you knew that. He never had a singles match in the last year. He's had tag matches with American Top Team and all that stuff, which he's lost. So this undefeated is pretty smart because he ain't really done nothing. So, yeah. But by the time he's now clocked that, you know, I'm undefeated and he's kind of playing off it, he's found his way into this title match and he's beaten a TNT champion. Cool. Fine. I guess at that point we're all thinking he must be a transitional champion because Wardlow, there's no chance
Wardlow is on the
that
warpath.
Wardlow ain't gonna whip him, and beat him tomorrow on Dynamite. But obviously Wardlow has the carrot of MJF hanging over him and everything he said about MJF, and MJF most likely costs Wardlow the match. I don't think that Wardlow will become champion and just be Scorpio Sky, a 1 week TNT champion. I think that'll be even more detrimental. So yeah, I think he retains. But this is, in that sense, if I'm going with the chain of thought that he retains, this is big for Scorpio Sky. I think he needs to do a lot in this run to win the likes of us back. I see NK talking in the chat. I know NK has never been invested. NK's never been invested, so he's got a lot to do. Now he's been given the ball, literally run with it. What can you do? Because that is the title they hot potato around, and if you're not cutting it, they'll give it to someone else immediately. So, but big up Scorpio Sky. He is. I guess he joins the prestigious list of like Omegas, Hangman Page, that have been like the most decorated guys in AEW now, with his tag championship, with his TNT title. So yeah, it's a lot. Just seeing what NK said, they needed to take the title off of Sammy, and if he had lost that match, considering how injured Sammy was and considering the story they are telling with MJF and Wardlow, Sky might retain. Don't expect him to look strong though. Yeah, if he retains, it's at the hands of MJF screwing Wardlow. It's not because he's gonna look, he's gonna overpower Wardlow.
Oh, he's not gonna overcome Wardlow as Scorpio Sky. It's just not happening. My thing is this, and kind of going off NK's point actually. When he faced, so his last singles match was actually against Darby Allin for the TNT Championship.
Time ago.
Yeah, a whole year, literally 365 days. I think it was 363 days or 364 days since he, when he won that championship. And I always thought that, given the storyline that Darby Allin was involved in at the time with Team Taz and Sting and blah blah blah, I think he had that crazy match with Ricky Starks and Sting and Brian Cage a few nights before. I always thought that was how Sky was going to win the TNT Championship, because it was a 50% Darby Allin, but he still lost. So to me, with NK saying about Sammy being as injured as he was and blah blah blah, I wasn't even expecting that. I wasn't expecting it, because it's happened before. It's going to happen again. There was no real, as much as Scorpio's been saying what he's been saying, he's not been the center guy for any of this since he teamed up with Ethan Page, since American Top Team's been involved, and Dan Lambert's been mouthing off every 2 seconds. Scorpio Sky is just still like the guy behind. And every now and again he'll do his Scrappy Doo act and let me at him. I'm unbeaten for almost a year. Like, okay, cool. But then you've got this whole thing now of Wardlow's on the warpath, and Wardlow faces him on Wednesday, and I'm just like, there is no way. Even given this MJF thing, there is no way Wardlow's losing, because based on the same things that we say all the time with this face of the Revolution matches, the Casino Battle Royal matches, it's gonna end up being another guy to win that match and not win the championship at their opportunity. Now, all things considered, his storyline with MJF can be considered to be bigger than the TNT championship.
Yeah.
Which is fine, which kind of makes sense of if he doesn't win. But at the same time, it's still leaving us with this whole, face of the Revolution. What is the point? Unless you name Scorpio Sky and a year later you win it. Like, it's that part for me that, as much as I'm worried for Scorpio Sky, AEW just seem to book themselves into a corner way too often for me. I don't see a good turnout either way. I don't know which one I prefer.
I think for the sake of the story, that's being told, just in terms of the higher level stories on the show.
Mm,
I
mm,
want
mm,
Wardlow to win. I would even make that a
mm,
secret. I want Wardlow to win, and
mm.
then I want it to be told kind of how MJF is gonna, say, okay, you still work for me. I want that belt, or whatever their story is
Mm,
gonna be around the
mm,
TNT
mm,
Championship. Because I do think we need some story around the TNT Championship. It's been good as this kind of open challenge belt and fighting
yeah.
champion stuff, but to have some story around it, I think would be a good direction for maybe this next year. Scorpio Sky, like if he retains, then all power to him. But like we're saying, it's not going to look good on the meaning of these battle royals and stuff like that. It's not going to look good
Mm-hmm,
for Scorpio as a new champion surviving,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and not having like a dominant first win.
mm-hmm,
I guess we're gonna have to kind of just see how it pans out on Wednesday and move from there. I do think Sky will retain because of shenanigans via MJF.
mm-hmm.
I have one thing, and thank you, Gerard, for putting this here. He said Sky's the first black male to win a singles title in
Oh,
AEW, which is worth celebrating. Thanks for that comment. It is worth
mm,
celebrating. That this is
mm,
the progress we've been asking for. It's nearly taken about 3 years now, but I guess
mm-hmm,
we're here. Do you think?
mm-hmm,
Because obviously we've seen a decorated Jay Lethal come in, a decorated Keith
mm-hmm,
Lee, Swerve Scott, Swerve Strickland come in.
mm-hmm.
It almost feels to me like this is like promised to Sky. Like, okay, you were the first of these lot, so you're getting it. Don't watch all these, other guys with the same color skin as you coming through the door. You're still gonna be our number one guy. And
Ooh.
I'm a bit tongue in cheek. I'm being a bit cynical with it, but I guess at this point, with Jay Lethal, Keith Lee,
Mm-mm-mm.
Shane Strickland in there, or Swerve Strickland, would you have expected him to now be our first AEW singles champion?
No. And this is what I'm saying about this whole thing. It's all kind of just come out of nothing and nowhere, because one, it should have happened at least a year ago. Two, there was no real build up for Sky at all in any of this. Three, something you just said that I didn't even think about, but as soon as you were about to start asking the question, I knew what you was gonna ask me, or I knew what you was gonna say, and I didn't think about it before, and I'm like, oh wow. And you know what? It kind of does feel like that. And in a way, it's nice to know that he was, possibly more than likely promised that something down the line. It's nice to know that was on his, that agreement, or understanding was there. I can't disagree with what you're saying. I can't disagree with what you're saying at all. I would definitely have rather. I'm glad that we can say Scorpio Sky was the first black AEW singles champion. I'm glad we can finally say that. As I've said from day one.
But
Go on.
if that was told to you in like what we now 2022, so someone said that to you in 2020, Scorpio Sky was the first black AEW singles champion, you would have thought, okay, cool, because he was still, there was
Yeah,
a
at that
momentum
time.
there and
Yeah,
everything
definitely.
and all that kind
For
of
sure.
stuff.
For sure.
And looking at the roster, apart from him, Sonny Kiss, probably no one else.
Yeah.
If someone said to you in 2022 with Keith Lee, Swerve, Jay Lethal, all these men on the roster, that Sky was the first AEW singles champion, again, I'm being cynical a bit, but it sounds like it's, oh, Mark Henry, you've done well, hold the world championship for a bit. It feels like it's a bit of that. You see what I mean? Like,
it is. I think it is, but at the same time, thankfully, given the fact that the guys that we've just mentioned, Strickland, Lethal, and Keith Lee, have only just come in.
yes.
So it still leaves that space for Sky to still have, enough of a pull to be the first one. He's been around for a while and all the rest of it. given the way it was done, given his current position in the company or on the card or, you know, his role at the moment, no one expected it. You know, I was the guy who was probably pushing for it more than anyone on this planet, apart from Scorpio Sky himself. But with the way it's happened, and the last 6 months, actually no, the last year of his career, I wasn't like, right, it has to happen now.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. I actually lost faith in the whole thing. This is why, and I think I tweeted this as well. It's like, you ask for something for so long, you're not giving it, but when you get it, and definitely not in the way that you wanted it as well, you're like, I don't actually want it.
Yeah.
I'm happy for him. I'm glad. There are all these things that we can say. Him being the first black champion or first black singles male champion in AEW. Him and Jade Cargill are now both champions in in AEW. If you go to TBS Twitter or TNT Twitter, you see both their names. And I made the joke of maybe AEW needs to be on BET now because them two are just killing it. Them two are champions. And he's the first one to hold, or only the third person to hold 2 championships in AEW. Names like Adam Page and Kenny Omega. He ended the first year of AEW with the most wins. Like there's all these accolades that Scorpio Sky actually has. On paper, it looks amazing, but the last 6 months, you're like, huh? How? And that's my problem. And then moving forward, like just in a couple of days or tomorrow, based on when we're recording, he could lose it. I'm just like,
it's like,
is this?
And I think that's where I've felt as well. It's like, how excited can I really be? Because he is facing, not just he's defending it next week, he's facing Wardlow. Like, so
Why?
How excited can I really get? And it's some good synergy with what you just said there, because I think when he was on that 7-match winning streak before he faced Cody the first time for the TNT Championship, there was only 2 men that had more wins than him in AEW. Again, Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. So he seems to be in good company. He seems to be recognized and treated somewhat well and looked after. I guess we have to get over this hurdle of Wednesday Night Dynamite where he faces Wardlow. I'm just gonna pick up some comments. Uncle Laurie RG, thanks for tuning in, bro. He says he's an AEW original, to be fair, but the TNT title is passed around like a hot potato. NK says Sky is definitely the company guy. He was the first ever tag team champion. His initial AEW push was hot, so this feels like a favor. A bit. Gerard says what makes this hard though is the literal year of singles inactivity that Sky had. That's the hard part. This is exactly what we're saying out of nowhere. NK says AEW tend to honor their originals. True. Uncle Laurie says somewhere in her room smoking a spliff, Big Swole is smiling from ear to ear. We're getting there. We're getting there.
We're getting there slowly but surely. And as I said, my initial reaction was, what is this? This doesn't look good. Both the build up to it, the very strong possibilities of him being transitional for Wardlow to become the champion. But on looking at Sky's record, on looking at the accolades and everything on paper, there is so much to still celebrate. There is so much to still celebrate, as we said already, a few times already. First male singles champion in AEW, first black male singles champion in AEW. He was the first one to hold the tag team championships as well, of course, and all these other things. I'm glad he can say it. I'm glad it's on his record. I'm glad that when you go on Wikipedia, you'll see Scorpio Sky TNT champion. You know what I mean? Things like that. It's there. It's set in stone. It can't be taken away from him. It's happened. I guess the number of days may be something, but no one really looks at that, really, do they? If in 20 years someone searches Scorpio Sky, they're not gonna judging on how many days he actually had it. They'll just say that he had it, and that's the end of it. So, there's enough to talk about. And at the same time as well, it now means we're going to watch Dynamite. We're going to be very in tune to see what happens, whether it be Scorpio carries on, whether you're invested in Scorpio Sky or whether you're actually invested in what happens with Wardlow, you're going to be watching. You know what I mean? You're going to be watching, whether it's Scorpio Sky does the impossible, MJF comes down and shenanigans happen, Wardlow comes out as a TNT champ, comes away as the TNT champion. You're wanting to watch what happens with this match, and to have Scorpio Sky involved in that, and it not be Sammy Guevara again is another, quiet victory, I guess, for us.
Yeah, definitely a win. And can I just say, like you mentioned earlier, I love this little touch that TBS and TNT are doing of this is our champion. Jade Cargill is our champion. Scorpio Sky is our champion. I just it makes it feel important. And even as we know these as the somewhat mid-card championships, the TNT title has been held, in very high regard for a long time. It's dipped at times, but they've handled that belt so well. Jade Cargill, inaugural win of the TBS championship. We've said this feels like the world championship right now. So I think that little touch from both of the networks kind of acknowledging what's going on their programming is really nice.
Yeah, for sure. Something else I just thought about, it's a very silly thing to say, but I'm sure someone on Twitter has probably said this already. It's crazy how you've got surprise victories for both Scorpio Sky and Ricochet. Mid-card belts, both bald-headed, lighter-skinned black men. Anyway, let me not go there. Whatever.
Let's take the wins where we can.
Trust me, take them as we can. Trust me, because even with Ricochet as well, it's a very similar thing. Kind of came out of nowhere. Have no idea of what the future actually holds for that championship and where it's going to go. But at the same time, both men can say they've held the championships that they have in their hand. So it's all good. Keeping with AEW, and we mentioned his name a couple of times in that conversation, is Swerve. Swerve made his debut against Tony Nese. Very good performance. We got to see the Swerve that we know. Saw a few new little tricks here as well from Swerve, which was nice to see. You wouldn't see that on WWE, I'll tell you that for nothing. So does it feel yet? Is it too early to ask this question? Does it feel as though Swerve is home?
I think it's a bit too early. We how AEW have handled new recruits as of recent. I think next month we're probably going to see next week we're probably going to see the likes of Swerve just do a promo, maybe try to set up something in the next 2 weeks. Similar way they're kind of handling Keith Lee right now. With Keith Lee, the obvious thing that's kind of come together is the Team Taz stuff. And that took the best part of probably 4 weeks or so, 5 weeks since he debuted. So I guess it's gonna take its time with Swerve. Like they did with Jade Cargill almost, and like they did with Hook. I would like them to do something like making Rampage Swerve's house. Like you only see him over there or something like that. Feels a bit more exclusive. And maybe he can break into the main shuffle of things going on Dynamite through some good performances over there. But yeah, like you, I was pretty impressed, and I don't know why, because we know what this guy's capable of, but maybe because we're seeing the full arsenal now with no holding back or anything like that. I was really impressed by his match with Tony Nese in the main event of Rampage. So I hope there is a lot of good stuff planned for him in the future.
I feel a little bit bad for Tony Nese. There was a little introduction to Tony Nese signing, then he disappeared, and now he's, I don't like to use the word, but jobbing to Swerve. And Tony Nese is amazing as well. He did some crazy stuff in 205. We do actually know what he's capable of. So to see it would be nice to see him kind of come back to his full potential, I guess, at some point. But he was a very good opponent for Swerve. It wasn't a somebody out of nowhere, in the local state and blah blah, nothing like that. It was Tony Nese. We know Tony Nese, and we know how good he is, as I said. It's very early, and I know I asked the question, but it is very early to kind of predict what's going to happen with Swerve, how it's going to work out, what does it all mean, where is it going to go. But I think if we just get a quiet run of wins, and as you said on Rampage, I think for me that would just allow me to just relax, not be so anxious about what's going to happen with him and all that kind of stuff. It will let him just have these matches. Don't put him on dark, and don't have him on dark in the next 2 weeks. Keep him on Rampage, keep him on the TV for a little while. Give him a run of wins, and then someone can come out of somewhere and challenge him or disrespect him or something like that, and we start some kind of feud with someone. Hopefully not Team Taz.
Team Taz come like the rite of passage or something.
Trust me, the black adversaries of all black wrestlers,
like Dolph Ziggler. You ain't debuted unless you face Dolph Ziggler.
Oh man, I mean, let's talk about that actually real quick, because obviously we saw Keith Lee attacked by Team Taz, and we're seeing this whole thing is now playing out. What's the next step? What's happening next with this little Team Taz, Keith Lee, and Will Hobbs scenario?
That's what it's gonna be. I guess the blow off match for this feud will be Will Hobbs, Powerhouse Hobbs versus Keith Lee, and I assume Keith Lee wins. And I don't know where that puts Team Taz, Powerhouse Hobbs, Ricky Starks again. I don't really know. Like, I don't know what to think about Team Taz anymore. Like, I just don't know.
It's difficult, man. They're on their only hope is Hook, and even then, I'm just like, is Hook being wasted? Being with Team Taz, because at the same time as he hasn't necessarily been with Team Taz either.
This is it. So since he's debuted, we haven't seen them together. It's been Ricky and Taz and Will Hobbs, and then Hook's doing his thing on Rampage. So it's almost like they know if we put Hook with these guys, visually, that might actually be a bad thing for Hook. Like, he's Team Taz, but let's book him away from Team Taz so that, he's like a man on his own island almost. And these guys here, if they're going to keep jobbing for us, that's what they're going to do. And it doesn't really affect Hook and the presentation of Hook.
It's so sad because, Hook is, great, amazing potential. All the rest of it. Don't take nothing away from that young man at all. But then to see the likes of a Ricky Starks and the potential of a Powerhouse Hobbs just being thrown to the wayside, it's just it's difficult to take. It's crazy. So we get Scorpio Sky, your TNT champion, but we're still kind of getting the crumbs,
the other side of the coin,
of everyone else. You know what I mean? It and this is why I say as well, like, we're not quite there yet. This TNT championship win definitely isn't the problem solver. It's not the answer to our problems in the sliced. It's just one step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But again, with that, we'll see what happens with that.
Uncle Laurie says here that Keith Lee is the next FTW champion.
Please, no.
I hope not. I really hope not. Like, let this not be the same kind of swerve that Will Hobbs done and joined Team Taz. Like, let's just let him beat Powerhouse Hobbs and we move on from this Team Taz stuff.
I mean, to be fair, actually, something I just thought, to be fair, what would be okay for me is if it turned into Keith Lee, Ricky Starks feud, and that then being some kind of way, or them getting to a point where we're like, right, who's going to come out on top? As much as we're expected to be Keith Lee, you could still put us in a position where there's a possibility it could be Ricky Starks. because Ricky Starks is that good, as we all know.
Yeah.
But there's something can come from it. Whether it will, I really don't think it will. I really don't expect it to at all. But yeah, it's just one of those things, I guess.
NK asked us a quick question here of where's Darius Lockhart at the moment, that he was building a buzz. I know he was on NWA, but like NK saying, I don't know where he has been since. Is he still featuring and stuff?
I've not clear. I know he was in a tournament, NWA's tournament. I can't remember. I'm not sure of the result of the tournament, how far we got and all the rest of it. But that's about it. Whether he's actually aligned with them, signed to them, or got a strong working relationship with them, I don't know. There are so many things on the indie scene that I've missed over the last few weeks. It's crazy, but I just know that he was in and around that. And I wouldn't be too surprised if that's where he stays for a while, because I know that for a while before he even turned up there, he was kind of cutting his own promos to challenge the then champion. What was his name? He was the champion for ages, Nick Aldis, for ages. For towards the end of last year, Darius was cutting his own promos to challenge him, and I think Nick saw them himself and kind of brought him into the fold, I guess. So I think he may end up staying there for a while, and I think that's a very good place for him, if I'm honest. That old school type of style that they have in terms of their, the presentation and styles and all the rest of it. It fits him just that little bit more. It's a nice place for him to kind of make his name as well. And then if he moves on to bigger things, he moves on to bigger things. But man, Darius Lockhart is a name that people need to remember and check out if they haven't already. So thank you, NK, for throwing that one in. Sad news is Big E injured himself, got injured, not injured himself. Got injured during a match on SmackDown. It was him and Kofi Kingston against Sheamus and Ridge Holland, who also introduced Butch. Moving on. So Ridge Holland performed an overhead suplex, and then Big E landed awkwardly, and it was quite obvious that he was injured. He didn't move. He was taken out of the arena, and he then later jumped on Twitter, social media in general, actually, with a video to say that he's okay. He didn't actually, he didn't break his neck, but
he had some fractures
and all the rest of it. We've now later found out, I think it was on Sunday or Monday, that it's his, I'm going to sound like I know what I'm talking about, but I just remember the information. But it was his C1 and his C6 that were hurt. Apparently, the new talk is that it's career threatening. So as much as he didn't break his neck, and he's, as he said, his digits are still moving, and he can still move his body and all the rest of it. The C1, if that is hurt enough, or if that breaks, that's literally life threatening. You can die on the spot. Obviously, thankfully, he didn't. But with him being a wrestler, and apparently the C1 never actually being able to mend to 100%, there's a strong possibility that he may never wrestle again. As NK's put in the comments, Big E has had a rough year. It's been a very roller coaster, up and down. Obviously, he was WWE champion for a while, but he's then lost it in the fashion that he did against Brock Lesnar in the Fatal 4-Way match, and was pushed back to SmackDown, and then just doing tag team stuff with Kofi Kingston, and then this happens obviously completely out of nowhere. Big E will always appear to be fine and cheery and all the rest of it. Do you think that there's some part of him that's now really fearful, really down about his last 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, it's bound to play on your mind. It has been a horrible last couple of months. Even from when he was champion, after facing Roman basically and losing so early into his run, the booking just wasn't good. And like you've already mentioned, he lost the title, then went on to basically do nothing, regressed as a wrestler, back into a tag team, moved over to SmackDown. it's very hard to hear someone like Big E. This may be it. Like he may never, under doctor's instruction anyway, he may never, should never wrestle again. Because if you think about it, yes, he became WWE champion, but he hasn't achieved as we all think this guy is going to be. What the potential is still there, and what I do hope, he seems like a sensible enough character when he's outside of doing New Day stuff. I would like to think that this is just a massive opportunity to completely rest up, heal, take all the time that you need, plus 6 months on top of that, to just work out everything, relax the body, and then, because as well as this, wrestling is a game of timing. And even in the midst of him becoming WWE champion, Roman Reigns is the guy. He was always going to be the secondary guy, the second champion, the B champion. With him taking an extended break, healing up well, if there is a glimmer of hope he can continue wrestling, it may even be more beneficial to him to claim that top spot properly, not just champion, but be the number one guy in the company in a year's time. If it's going to take a year, in a year's time, or whatever the case is. So it is distressing news. It's not, what's that guy's name? TJ, Cesaro's tag team partner. Natalia's husband. I've forgotten his name. His name's TJ, son.
Oh, yeah. TJ.
But it's not here. It's not not fatal, but like it's not, as bad as his was. His was literally, you're done, sort of thing. So I remain optimistic on the fact that we will one day see Big E wrestle again. Yeah, I do encourage that you take all the time. Thank you, Gerard. Gerard said Tyson Kidd, that's his name. But yeah, it's a case of just resting up, and like I'm saying, if it's a year, 18 months or longer down the line, the timing may actually be better for you to come back, make an impactful return, and actually be the face of this company that they want you to be. Because I don't doubt that they still want him to be this guy that we got a glimpse of over the last 6 months. I just think that the engine is fully behind Roman right now. So once they kind of move on from that, Big E hopefully can return and get his chance in the sun.
I mean, I almost feel as though I have no one to rest my hopes on when it comes to black wrestlers in WWE right now, because Lashley's out, Big E's out. Who's left? I mean, I know we've got a former champion in Kofi Kingston, but we're not seeing Kofi Kingston as champion again. It's not happening. It's not happening. Given what you said about Big E resting up and all that kind of thing, that would be amazing. That would be the dream scenario in my eyes as well, actually, for him to just rest up as long as it takes. It could be more than a year. I don't think I'd be upset by that either. As long as he comes back fully fit and, straight away on top of the card, and not just, I don't know, to save the New Day or something like that. You know what I mean? It needs to be him coming out and saying, right, I'm coming back for what should have been mine 2 years ago or a year ago, whatever it is. The fear of the potential fear of him not wrestling again, I don't even want to think about it. It's a very realistic scenario. I don't want to think about it at all. I guess if that was to be announced, if that was to be the news that we see in the next few months or whatever, I would then just pin all my hopes on him coming back like Edge and Daniel Bryan did, because to see him not wrestle again and not necessarily fulfill his full potential. The difference is with Edge and Daniel Bryan, they were able to do all the stuff that they did. They had all of that. They could have just retired and that end of the career, it didn't, it wasn't nice in the way it happened, but at least at the same time, they had that to say, boom, we were champions however many times. We did so and so at WrestleMania. We did this. We did that. We faced this person, that person, beat this person. Blah blah blah. Big E can't really turn around and say all of that. Yeah, you can talk about his tag team championship accolades. Yes, he was a WWE champion once before, but we know full well that for both us, I'm sure for him, he probably wouldn't admit to it in public, but I'm sure for him, his run wasn't what he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
So he has something to come back for. So it's now gonna be very interesting just to see how it all plays out, not just for him, but the rest of the New Day. Obviously, we've got Xavier Woods still injured. Kofi Kingston's now gonna be on his own. He got beat down the other day. Whether they kind of, book him out of TV for a while, I don't know. It's possible within the next week or so. We'll see what happens with that. It's a very difficult place for Big E to be in, and to kind of try to imagine what happens next is very difficult, man. It's crazy. Uncle Laurie RG says we have Apollo Crews and Omos, but they both suck. Well, to be fair, I mean, I did ask the question actually very quickly last week, where is Apollo Crews? And they've seemed to have kind of not necessarily given up, but kind of, held back a lot now with Omos as well. He's active, but it's not in the same way where we're kind of seeing, right, they're invested in him and stuff like that. So again, I don't know who's left. I mean, Montez Ford, maybe.
Yeah. They cut a very serious promo on Raw this past week to, get their WrestleMania match against RK Bro, which is good to see. They'll be on the card. I'm sure that match is going to be wicked. Bianca Belair, that's our hope. That is our hope.
Of course.
Bianca Belair, even the likes of Sasha. It
Banks,
really
Naomi.
hurts me that Sasha is like part-time in this, and I'm happy that she has opportunities outside of WWE. But even her, has she really had the dominant main roster run, of being a champion, beating everybody, holding a belt for a year? Sasha Banks hasn't done that sort of thing. And there's a part of me that even feels like mentally she's maybe checked out because she thinks, okay, well, this ain't ever gonna happen. They're not gonna do it. So let me go and explore other ventures, which is a bit sad. But I think Bianca Belair is the star for us in WWE, and she's waving the flag high. So
in a very,
got to hang our
way.
hat on.
In a very big way, she's the one flying the flag. And you're the only one left. Oh Lord, it's crazy how things can change in the space of like a few weeks. Yeah. Because we were here before talking about Bianca Belair, Bobby Lashley, Big E, what I mean, and others. I think it might be time for MVP to go and grab Carmelo Hayes and add Carmelo Hayes to Hurt Business 2.0. And do what he's doing with him. I mean, to be fair, I was gonna ask the question. We've got like a minute or so, a couple of minutes left. I was gonna ask a question about Star of the Week. I've done that in like about 3-4 months. And for me, Carmelo Hayes is that guy right now. He can't do no wrong. He literally can't do no wrong for me right now, and he's even set himself a ladder match against 4 other guys for NXT Stand and Deliver for his North American Championship. Yeah. For him to do that himself as a heel is crazy in terms of as a wrestler, in terms of how he's seen by the company, in terms of booking. It's great. He's another one for me who is flying that flag. There's very few now that are, and he's that guy.
You're right.
He's that
right. I do think it's a very easy way for them to take the belt off him, though.
I'm a little bit scared by that. I ain't gonna lie. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, because obviously he won't have to be visually pinned or anything like that. But I watched NXT kind of late last week in terms of after it had broadcasted, and I saw Pete Dunne trending on Twitter. And I said, oh my God, Pete Dunne has beaten him for the North American Championship. And I love Pete Dunne or Butch. Sorry, Butch. I love that
Pete Dunne.
guy.
Let's get it right.
But I was shook. Then when I watched NXT and they had a great match and he retained, that's when I clocked, literally like you're saying, right, so who can beat this guy? Who can beat him to the point now where he's almost made the stipulation and put the match, put the belt in a ladder match to defend it. So yeah, he's been booked very well.
In terms of your star of the week, if anyone who kind of has stood out for you the last few days,
I will give it to Scorpio Sky. I think the match with Sammy Guevara was a good match. I think that's been the most entertaining part of Sammy's title runs, just the matches in between that. He hasn't really been given, much to do. So his match with Scorpio was good. I was happy that Scorpio Sky kind of, how he felt. There was a lot of elation there after winning that title, and then him and America Top Team went on to do whatever crud they went on to do. And yeah, I'm intrigued how it's going to play out with this Wardlow stuff on Dynamite. But yeah, I'd say Scorpio Sky is my star of the week. What about you?
As I said, Carmelo Hayes for me was my guy. As much as his match with Pete Dunne was it the week before? Was it last? I can't even remember now. But just seeing where he's at, and that whole thing with the ladder match and whatever else, just shows me just how important he is to the company at the moment. Not to necessarily end on a bad note, but the one thing I forgot to say about Scorpio Sky's win is that it felt like it was overshadowed by two other incidents on the show, and even what happened straight after he won the match. Jeff Hardy return, the Jericho thing.
I don't feel like it was overshadowed personally.
And then Paige Van Zandt beating up Ty Conti. It kind of felt like Scorpio didn't get a chance to celebrate it properly. But anyway, on that note, we are at the end of our show. I have been Dazzle, the Black Wrestling Advocate. You can find me on Twitter, Black Wrestling A, and on Instagram, Black Wrestling Alliance. For those that care, right now, for some strange reason, Instagram won't let me post. That's why you've not seen me post about Sharmell, about Big E's injury, just about everything. But you can also follow this guy, Mex. He'll tell you about all the other stuff that's going on WrestleManiac.uk on Instagram and WrestleManiac UK on Twitter. He talks more over there than he does on Instagram. But also follow, like, subscribe on the WrestleManiac UK YouTube channel as well. Guys, that has been our time. We are out of here. See you next time.
See you there, guys.